There is a ritual that takes place in almost every home, every single morning, across the entire world. You wake up, you walk into the kitchen, and you begin the process of making your morning coffee. The rich, dark aroma fills the room. It is comforting. It signals the start of your day. For many adults over the age of 60, this is the one deeply ingrained habit they absolutely refuse to give up. You might have cut back on red meat, you might have stopped eating salty snacks late at night, and you might take your blood pressure medications exactly as prescribed. But that morning cup of coffee remains sacred, and because you are conscious of your heart health, you have probably already made what you believe to be the smartest, safest adjustment possible. You switched from 3 cups a day down to 1. Or perhaps you made the ultimate sacrifice and switched entirely to decaffeinated coffee. You proudly tell your cardiologist that you have eliminated caffeine from your diet, assuming you have completely neutralized any potential threat to your cardiovascular system. You believe that without the caffeine, that dark liquid in your mug is nothing more than harmless flavored hot water. But what if I told you that the caffeine was never the most dangerous part of the coffee bean? What if I told you that the specific mechanical device you use to brew that coffee is actively deciding whether or not your arteries will become clogged with solid cholesterol plaque? What if the exact minute you choose to take your first sip is creating a violent, invisible hormonal collision inside your body that causes your blood pressure to skyrocket to stroke-level heights, even if the coffee is completely decaffeinated? Millions of seniors are unknowingly sabotaging their cardiovascular health every single morning, not because they are drinking caffeine, but because they do not understand the profound, hidden chemical complexity of the coffee bean itself. Today, we are going to expose the real reasons coffee can be incredibly dangerous for an aging heart. We are going to dive deep into the specific brewing methods that extract artery-clogging oils, how coffee physically barricades your stomach from absorbing your life-saving medications, and why the dark secret of the decaffeination process might be introducing toxic chemical stress to your liver. We will uncover the exact biological mechanisms at play, and what you must change immediately to protect your heart. Before we look under the microscope at these fascinating chemical reactions, I must pause and provide you with my standard, critically important medical disclaimer. This video is intended strictly for educational purposes. I am a doctor, but I am not your personal doctor. The physiological interactions, hormonal pathways, and medication blockades we are about to discuss are based on heavily researched, peer-reviewed medical science. However, every single human body metabolizes food and medication differently. Do not ever use the information in this video as an excuse to abruptly stop taking any prescribed heart medication, and do not make massive, sudden changes to your dietary routine without professional guidance. Use the knowledge I am sharing with you today to educate yourself, to understand the powerful mechanical forces hiding in your kitchen, and to become an active, intelligent advocate for your own longevity. Then, take this knowledge directly to your primary care physician or your cardiologist and have an informed, specific conversation about how your daily habits are affecting your unique cardiovascular profile. To understand the hidden danger in your coffee mug, we have to look closely at the anatomy of the coffee bean itself. A coffee bean is not actually a bean at all. It is the seed of a fruit. And like many seeds in nature, it is packed full of incredibly complex chemical compounds and natural heavy oils. When we talk about coffee being bad for the heart, almost everyone immediately points the finger at caffeine, which is a stimulant that temporarily raises the heart rate. But the true danger to your arteries over the long term comes from 2 specific naturally occurring oils hidden deep inside the coffee seed. These oils are called cafestol and kawil. In the medical community, we refer to them collectively as diterpenes. These diterpenes are incredibly powerful chemical agents, and they have a direct, profound, and highly negative impact on your liver. To understand how they harm you, you must understand how your liver manages your cholesterol. Your liver is essentially the master control center for the cholesterol in your blood. When you have too much LDL cholesterol, which is the bad, sticky cholesterol that forms plaque in your arteries, your liver's job is to pull that LDL out of your bloodstream. The liver does this by taking the bad cholesterol and converting it into bile acids, which are then stored in your gallbladder and eventually flushed out of your body through your digestive tract. This continuous clearing process is what keeps your arteries clean and open. When you drink coffee that contains high levels of cafestol and kawil, those heavy oils travel down into your stomach, enter your bloodstream, and head directly for your liver. When they arrive, they perform a terrifying chemical hijack. The cafestol physically binds to a very specific receptor in your liver cells known as the farnesoid X receptor. By binding to this receptor, the coffee oil effectively turns off the liver's ability to produce bile acids. It shuts down the exact mechanism your body uses to eliminate bad cholesterol. Because the liver can no longer convert the cholesterol into bile, it has no choice but to push that sticky LDL cholesterol right back out into your bloodstream. The result is a massive, silent, and highly dangerous spike in your circulating LDL cholesterol levels. A major meta-analysis published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology investigated the precise impact of these coffee oils on human blood lipids. The researchers definitively proved that regular consumption of cafestol leads to a significant, sustained elevation in LDL cholesterol, directly accelerating the buildup of rock-hard plaque inside the coronary arteries. The coffee is not depositing cholesterol into your blood. It is chemically locking the exit door so the cholesterol you already have cannot escape. But here is the absolute most critical part of this mechanism. The amount of these dangerous oils that actually makes it into your morning mug is determined entirely by one thing: the specific method you use to brew the coffee. Cafestol and kawal are heavy, thick oils. If you brew your coffee using a traditional drip machine with a paper filter, you are largely safe. The microscopic fibers in a standard paper filter act as an incredibly effective chemical net. The hot water extracts the flavor and the caffeine from the grounds, but the heavy, artery-clogging oils get trapped in the paper fibers and are thrown away in the trash. However, millions of seniors have abandoned paper filters in favor of brewing methods they believe produce a richer, more robust flavor. If you use a glass French press, an espresso machine, a metal mesh reusable filter, or if you boil your coffee directly in the water like traditional Scandinavian or Turkish coffee, you are in the danger zone. These methods do not use paper. The metal mesh of a French press or a reusable filter allows every single drop of that cafestol oil to pass directly through into your mug. You can actually see it. If you brew a French press coffee and look at the surface of the liquid under a bright light, you will see a shimmering, rainbow-colored slick floating on top. That is pure cafestol. That is the exact chemical that will shut down your liver's cholesterol-clearing engine. I want to share a story from my practice about a patient named Thomas. Thomas was 66 years old, a retired high school history teacher. Thomas was incredibly diligent about his heart health. He took a moderate dose of a statin medication, he walked 3 miles every day, and his LDL cholesterol was beautifully managed, consistently sitting right around 85 milligrams per deciliter. For his birthday, his daughter bought him a beautiful, expensive stainless steel French press coffee maker, telling him it was how true coffee aficionados drank their morning brew. Thomas loved it. He started drinking 2 large cups of French press coffee every single morning. 3 months later, Thomas came in for his routine biannual blood work. When the results came back, I was stunned. His LDL cholesterol had violently spiked from 85 all the way up to 140. It was a massive, inexplicable jump. He swore to me he had not changed his diet. He was not eating fast food, he was taking his statin every night, and he was still exercising. We went through his daily routine minute by minute. When he proudly mentioned his new French press, the mystery was instantly solved. The daily flood of cafestol passing through that metal mesh had completely overwhelmed his liver. It was actively fighting against his prescribed statin medication. The statin was trying to lower the cholesterol, while the cafestol was completely blocking the liver from eliminating it. The coffee oil won the battle. I instructed Thomas to immediately pack up the French press and go back to his cheap plastic drip machine with a paper filter. We did not change his medication dose. 2 months later, we rechecked his blood. His LDL cholesterol had dropped right back down to 88. The danger was not the coffee bean itself. It was the total absence of a simple 10-cent paper filter. If you have been struggling with stubbornly high cholesterol and your doctor keeps increasing the dose of your statin medication without success, you must immediately audit your kitchen. If you are drinking unfiltered coffee, you are pouring a daily dose of liver-blocking oil directly into your bloodstream. You must discuss this with your doctor, and you must understand that the brewing mechanism is a medical decision, not just a culinary preference. The second massive cardiovascular danger of morning coffee has absolutely nothing to do with cholesterol and everything to do with your hormones and the precise timing of your first sip. This danger applies whether you use a paper filter or a French press, and it applies even if you drink decaffeinated coffee. It is a phenomenon known as the cortisol collision. To understand this, we have to look at the incredibly complex biological symphony that happens inside your body when you wake up. Human beings operate on a strict 24-hour internal clock called the circadian rhythm. As dawn approaches and your body prepares to transition from deep sleep to conscious wakefulness, it requires a massive surge of internal energy. Your brain signals 2 small glands sitting on top of your kidneys, called the adrenal glands, to release a powerful flood of a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but in the early morning, it is the waking hormone. This massive release of cortisol is known in the medical literature as the cortisol awakening response. This hormone floods your system, immediately increasing your heart rate, mobilizing stored sugars into your bloodstream for energy, and most importantly, causing your blood vessels to physically constrict. Because the blood vessels clamp down, your blood pressure naturally and sharply rises. This is how your body ensures enough oxygen-rich blood is pushed up against gravity into your brain so you can stand up and function. For a healthy 20-year-old, this morning cortisol spike is easily handled. But for an adult over the age of 60, whose blood vessels are already naturally stiffer and less elastic, this morning surge places immense mechanical stress on the inner lining of the arteries. In fact, this natural hormonal blood pressure spike is the precise reason why the vast majority of fatal heart attacks and catastrophic strokes occur between the hours of 6 in the morning and noon. Your cardiovascular system is at its absolute most vulnerable state during those first few hours of wakefulness. Now imagine what happens when you wake up. Experience this massive natural cortisol and blood pressure spike, and within 15 minutes, you pour a hot cup of coffee down your throat. You are introducing an external, powerful chemical stimulant directly on top of your body's most intense internal hormonal surge. You are pouring gasoline on a biological fire. Even if the coffee is decaffeinated, the extremely hot liquid, combined with the complex antioxidants and trace stimulants remaining in the bean, triggers your nervous system. Your adrenal glands are shocked into producing even more cortisol and adrenaline. The blood vessels, which are already tightly constricted from waking up, clamp down even harder. The pressure inside your arterial system absolutely explodes. A fascinating study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism closely monitored the blood pressure and hormonal levels of older adults in the morning. The researchers found that consuming coffee during the peak of the cortisol awakening response, which is generally the first 60 to 90 minutes after opening your eyes, created a dangerous, compounded double spike in systolic blood pressure. The pressure forced against the delicate, stiffened walls of the coronary arteries was significantly higher than if the patient had waited to consume the exact same cup of coffee 2 hours later. I want to pause and emphasize the physics of this situation. Inside your coronary arteries, you likely have microscopic, silent buildups of cholesterol plaque. These plaques are covered by a very thin, fragile, fibrous cap. If your blood pressure spikes violently because you added coffee to your morning cortisol surge, the sheer physical force of that rushing blood can cause that fragile cap to snap and tear open. When the plaque ruptures, a massive blood clot forms instantly, completely blocking the artery and causing a sudden, massive heart attack. You must protect your vascular system during its most vulnerable window. Waking up and immediately shuffling to the coffee maker is a habit that forces your heart to work against a catastrophic pressure gradient. The third major danger of coffee for seniors involves a silent, invisible interference happening inside the dark environment of your stomach. This is the danger of the medication blockade. Millions of older adults have a very specific morning routine. They pour their hot cup of coffee, they open their weekly pill organizer, they take out their life-saving blood pressure pill, their thyroid medication, or their osteoporosis drug, and they swallow those pills right down with a sip of their dark roast. They believe they have successfully completed their medical duty for the day, but chemically speaking, they have just made a terrible, potentially fatal error. Coffee is not just flavored water. It is a highly complex chemical soup containing over 1,000 different bioactive compounds. The most prominent of these are tannins and chlorogenic acids. These compounds are what give coffee its dark color, its bitter taste, and its high acidity. When you swallow a prescription medication, that pill drops into your stomach and begins to dissolve. The active pharmaceutical chemicals are released and they must pass through the semi-permeable lining of your stomach and your small intestine to enter your bloodstream and reach your heart. But when you flood your stomach with hot coffee at the exact same time, those powerful tannins and acids go to work. They physically seek out the chemical structures of your medications and bind to them. They act like microscopic chemical handcuffs, wrapping around the drug molecules and forming a dense, heavy complex that is physically too large to pass through the lining of your intestinal wall. Furthermore, the high acidity of the coffee drastically alters the pH balance of your stomach acid. Many modern cardiovascular medications are engineered with incredibly precise time-release coatings designed to dissolve in a very specific pH environment. If you flood your stomach with acidic coffee, that delicate coating is destroyed instantly. The medication is dumped into your system all at once, or it is completely neutralized by the stomach acid before it can be absorbed. A comprehensive review published in the American Journal of Health System Pharmacy analyzed the interactions between coffee and common prescription drugs. The findings were staggering. Consuming coffee concurrently with medications like beta blockers for the heart, levothyroxine for the thyroid, or alendronate for bone density can reduce the actual absorption of the drug into the bloodstream by up to 60%. Let me share the story of a patient named Maria. Maria was 71, a vibrant woman who managed her hypertension with a daily dose of amlodipine, a calcium channel blocker. For years, her blood pressure was a perfect 120/80. But over the course of 3 months, her blood pressure began to slowly, inexplicably climb. It went to 140, then 150, and finally 165/90. She came to my clinic incredibly frustrated, swearing she had not missed a single day of her medication. I asked her a very specific question. Maria, take me through the exact, literal physical movements you make when you swallow your pill. She explained that she used to take her pill at night with a glass of water. But 3 months ago, she decided to switch her routine and take all her vitamins and her blood pressure pill first thing in the morning. She would sit at her kitchen table, read the newspaper, and swallow her amlodipine using her hot, dark roast coffee. I explained the chemistry of the tannins and the acid blockade. The amlodipine was going into her stomach, but because she was washing it down with coffee, the drug was being chemically handcuffed and flushed directly out of her digestive tract. It was never reaching her blood vessels. She was essentially taking less than half of her prescribed dose, leaving her cardiovascular system completely unprotected against the immense pressure. I simply instructed her to take her pill with a full glass of plain, room-temperature water and wait 1 full hour before drinking her coffee. Within 2 weeks, her blood pressure plummeted perfectly back down to 120. The drug had not stopped working. She had simply stopped allowing her body to absorb it. I must be absolutely clear. I am not telling you to change the time of day you take your medications. Discuss this with your doctor, but you must never, under any circumstances, swallow a life-saving cardiovascular drug with anything other than plain water. Coffee is a chemical barrier. Now, we must address the final and perhaps most deceptive aspect of the coffee ritual, the transition to decaffeinated coffee. Countless seniors switch to decaf under the strict advice of their doctors to protect their hearts from stimulant-induced arrhythmias. They drink their decaf proudly, believing they have outsmarted the danger. But the decaffeination process hides a dark, chemical secret that introduces an entirely new set of risks to your aging liver and your blood vessels. Caffeine is a naturally occurring, deeply embedded chemical inside the coffee bean. You cannot simply wash it off with water. To pull the caffeine out of the hard green seed, massive industrial coffee manufacturers rely on powerful, harsh chemical solvents. The most common solvent used in the global decaffeination industry is a chemical called methylene chloride. Methylene chloride is not a gentle substance. It is a highly volatile, toxic industrial solvent that is also the primary active ingredient in commercial paint strippers and heavy-duty degreasers. The green coffee beans are literally soaked in vats of this toxic solvent. The chemical aggressively bonds to the caffeine molecules and pulls them out of the bean. The beans are then washed and roasted, and the manufacturers claim that the heat of the roasting process burns away all the chemical residue. But trace microscopic amounts of methylene chloride can and do remain locked inside the cellular structure of the roasted decaf bean. When you grind those beans, brew the coffee, and drink it every single morning, you are introducing trace amounts of an industrial paint stripper into your digestive system. Once again, your liver, the master filtration organ of your body, is forced to intercept these toxic chemicals. Your liver has to work frantically to process and neutralize the methylene chloride, diverting its energy and resources away from its primary jobs, like clearing bad cholesterol and managing your blood sugar. Furthermore, there is a secondary, equally dangerous deception hiding in the decaf aisle. The coffee industry generally relies on 2 different species of coffee plants, Arabica and Robusta. Arabica beans are considered high quality, they are smoother, and they naturally contain less caffeine. Robusta beans are cheap, harsh, incredibly bitter, and they naturally contain double the amount of caffeine. Because the harsh chemical decaffeination process strips away so much flavor, massive coffee corporations often use the cheaper, harsher Robusta beans for their decaf blends because the bitter flavor survives the chemical soaking better than the delicate Arabica beans. Why does this matter for your heart? Because Robusta beans naturally contain significantly higher concentrations of the heavy, artery-clogging cafestol oils we discussed at the very beginning of this presentation. So, a senior who switches to a cheap, chemically processed, decaffeinated coffee is completely escaping the caffeine, but they are simultaneously flooding their liver with trace industrial solvents and a massive concentrated dose of the exact heavy oil that drives their LDL cholesterol through the roof. It is a terrible, invisible, biological trade-off. I know this information is overwhelming. I know that coffee is a cherished comfort, and it might feel like I am asking you to surrender the one simple pleasure you have left in the morning. But I am absolutely not telling you to stop drinking coffee. Coffee contains brilliant, heart-protective antioxidants. The goal is not elimination. The goal is mechanical and chemical mastery. You can enjoy your morning ritual safely if you follow a very specific, uncompromising set of rules. I have developed a protocol to help you navigate this. I call it the Heart-Safe Coffee Checklist. These are 4 non-negotiable steps you must take to protect your cardiovascular system from the hidden dangers in your mug. Step 1. The paper filter mandate. You must immediately throw away your metal mesh filters and pack up your French press. Go to the store and purchase a traditional drip coffee maker that requires disposable paper filters. Do not buy the gold tone reusable filters. It must be paper. That cheap, thin piece of paper is the most powerful cholesterol-lowering device in your entire kitchen. It will act as a microscopic net, capturing the heavy, dangerous cafestol oils and preventing them from reaching your liver. Step 2. The 90-minute delay. You must fundamentally break the habit of drinking coffee the minute you open your eyes. When your alarm goes off, your cortisol is spiking and your blood pressure is rising. You must give your adrenal glands time to settle down. Drink a large glass of plain, room temperature water as soon as you wake up. Wait a minimum of 90 minutes before you pour your first cup of hot coffee. This 90-minute delay allows the cortisol awakening response to pass its peak, protecting your fragile arteries from a violent, chemically induced double spike in pressure. Step 3. The 1-hour medication window. Never allow your life-saving prescription drugs to meet the tannins and acids of your coffee inside your stomach. You must create a strict chemical quarantine. If you take your heart medications in the morning, swallow them with 8 ounces of plain water. You must then wait 1 full hour before drinking your coffee. This 1-hour window allows the pill to completely dissolve, pass through your stomach lining, and safely enter your bloodstream before the acidic binding coffee arrives to interfere. Step 4. The Swiss water switch. If you rely on decaffeinated coffee to protect your heart from arrhythmias, you must stop buying cheap, chemically processed beans. Look closely at the bag or the label. You are looking for a very specific phrase, Swiss water process or water processed decaf. This is an entirely different, brilliant method of removing caffeine that uses nothing but pure water, temperature, and time. It relies on osmosis to gently extract the caffeine without ever using a single drop of toxic methylene chloride or industrial solvents. It is vastly safer for your liver and significantly better for your long-term cardiovascular health. Your heart is an extraordinary, tireless engine. It beats 100,000 times a day, pushing life-giving oxygen to every cell in your body. But it relies on you to make intelligent, informed decisions about the chemical environment it has to operate in. The smallest mechanical details, the type of filter you use, the exact minute you take a sip, the liquid you use to swallow a pill, can determine whether your arteries remain wide open or become choked with rock-hard plaque. You have the power to control these variables. You do not have to be a passive victim of hidden chemicals or poor brewing habits. Be curious, be disciplined, and respect the profound biochemical reactions happening inside your own body every single morning. I strongly urge you to share this video immediately. Send it to your spouse, email it to your friends from your breakfast club, or share it with your family members. Almost everyone over the age of 60 drinks coffee, and the vast majority of them are completely blind to the terrifying cardiovascular traps hiding in their daily routine. You have the power to educate them and potentially save them from a massive, preventable stroke. If you found this deep dive into the hidden chemistry of your kitchen valuable, and you want to continue learning how to fiercely protect your health as you age, please hit the subscribe button and tap the notification bell. My commitment is to decode the complex medical science and bring you the unvarnished, factual truth every single week so you can make the safest decisions for your future. Before you close this video, please leave a comment down below. Tell me, how exactly do you brew your coffee every morning? And do you use a paper filter or a metal mesh? I read as many comments as I can, and your real-world habits help me design the precise guidance this community desperately needs. Use the information I have shared today as a starting point for a serious conversation with your healthcare team, not as a replacement for them. Ask your doctor specifically how your daily coffee routine might be interacting with your unique cardiovascular profile. Thank you for your time today. Take care of your heart. It is the only one you have got, and I will see you in the next video.